This Karen lady drove her fancy white car right onto my farm again. But this time wasn't like the others. She didn't just look around and leave. She parked her car right in the middle of my fresh vegetable garden, got out wearing her shiny shoes, and walked away like she was the boss of everything. So I did what any mad farmer would do. I taught her a lesson she would never forget. When she came back, her car was completely missing. Not stolen, not moved somewhere else, just gone. She yelled so loud that my chickens ran away scared. But how did I make her car disappear? And why did she keep putting her car on my farm without asking? Well, let me tell you how this crazy story started. I live in a quiet place in the country near Charlotte, North Carolina. Nothing too special, just big open land, green grass everywhere, and lots of peace and quiet. I have a small farm that my family has owned for a very long time. It's not super big, but it's mine. I grow corn and carrots, and I take care of some goats and chickens. What I love most is how calm everything is. When my daddy died, I promised him I would keep taking care of the farm and love the land like he did. Everything was nice and peaceful until this new lady moved in. Her real name was Susan, but everyone called her Karen because she was always complaining about everything. You know the type, bossy, loud, thinks she's always right and never wrong. She moved into a fancy new neighborhood right across from my farm. Big houses, perfect grass, moms who all dress the same. You know what I mean. First, she was just annoying, telling me to cut the weeds near her house, even though they weren't even touching her fence. She complained about how my goats smelled. She said my rooster, making noise at 5 in the morning, was breaking the rules, like my farm was part of her fancy neighborhood. But it's not. I tried to stay nice. I tried to be kind. Maybe she just needs time to get used to living here, I thought. I learned from my mom and dad that being nice is important. You shouldn't be mean to people just because they're mean to you. My mom always said, when people throw rocks at you, plant flowers instead. So I kept being nice even, when she tried to make me mad. Then she started parking on my land. One day, I was walking back to the barn carrying food for my animals when I saw it. Her white car parked on MY land. Not on the road, not in her driveway, but on MY farm. I walked over to her, thinking maybe she was lost. Hey, excuse me. You can't park here. This is my land. She looked at me with the fakest smile I ever saw. Oh, this is just for a minute. I need to check something nearby. It's not like I'm hurting anything. I gave her a chance. One time. Okay, no big deal. But that one time became every other day. She started using my land like it was her own parking lot whenever she had friends over and her driveway was full. Sometimes it was just her. Other times, she had little parties and people would park in my field, crushing the edges of my plants. I put up signs that said private land and no parking. I even left a note on her car window. Please stop parking here. This is a working farm. She ignored everything. It wasn't just annoying, it was disrespectful. My dad used to say, if someone treats your land like it's worthless, they probably think you are too. But I still try to stay nice. I didn't call the police. I didn't yell. I didn't scratch her car or throw goat poop at it, even though I really wanted to. Instead, I went to talk to her face to face. I saw her putting groceries in her house one morning. Susan, I'm asking nicely, please stop parking on my land. You're hurting my plants, and it's just not right. She gave me that same fake smile again. Oh, come on. It's just dirt. Don't be so dramatic. You should be happy people even care about your little farm. My little farm? I was so mad, but I didn't say anything back. That night, I couldn't sleep. I looked out my window at the spot where she always parked, tried to think of what to do. I wasn't someone who liked getting revenge, but I believe that people should learn from their mistakes. And that's when I got the idea. It wasn't against the law. It wasn't mean, but it was smart. And it was going to teach her a lesson she couldn't ignore. I spent the next morning getting ready. It was quiet, just the sound of my rooster, goats, and me hammering some wood. I made something special near the edge of the field, right behind my old tool shed. Something very special. And then I waited. Sure enough, That afternoon, she drove up again, right onto my field, slammed her car door shut, and walked away in her fancy shoes like she was walking on a red carpet. Her car sat there like a big metal bug sitting on my hard work. So I got to work too. 10 minutes. Later, her car was no longer where she left it. When she came back and saw what happened, it was already too late. "Where's my CR?" she screamed, spinning around in circles. She ran onto the field, stomping through my plants like an angry little kid. "What did you do with my car?" I came out from behind the tool shed, wiping sweat off my face. "Oh, you mean the car that was parked on my land without permission?" Her face turned red, her mouth dropped open, and then something even more crazy happened. Behind her, another voice said, "Ma'am, is this your car?" We both turned around, and there was Officer Johnson, our local police officer. Now, you might be wondering, how did he show up? Did I call the police? And oh, she did. But she didn't expect what happened next. And that's where things got really wild. Karen put her hands on her hips, and her voice was sharp like a knife. "Yes, officer, that's my car. And this farmer HI'd it. He probably stole it or moved it somewhere to mess with me. I want him arrested for stealing." Officer Johnson didn't even blink. He looked at me, then back at Karen. "Ma'am, the car was parked on his private land. He has the legal right to move it, especially if you've been warned before." Karen's mouth fell open like a trapdoor. "Moved? Moved where?" she shouted. I smiled nicely and pointed toward the back of the barn. "You'll find it safe and sound. I moved it with my tractor." Yes, I used my old John Deere tractor and carefully lifted the front of her car, one wheel at a time, using a special wooden ramp I made the day before. I had a trailer attached to the back. It wasn't easy. It took me almost an hour, but I moved it across the field to an old goat pen that I wasn't using anymore. I didn't break anything. I didn't scratch the paint. I didn't touch the inside. I just moved it to a different spot. Technically, it never left my land. She stomped away, walking over the corn plants that were already flat from her car. Officer Johnson turned to me and nodded slowly. "Creative, but next time just call me." I thought this. Way she would learn better. "Oh, she will," he said with a little laugh. I thought that would be the yendy of it. I was wrong. 3 days later, just as I was finishing putting hay in the barn, I saw her again. This time she was holding a clipboard and taking pictures of my farm. "What are you doing?" I asked, wiping sweat off my face. "I'm writing down all the problems," she snapped. "This place is ugly. Your fence is old. Your goats smell bad. And the chicken house? Completely dirty. I'm telling the HOA about all of it." I laughed out loud. "Susan, I don't live in your neighborhood. Your HOA can't tell me what to do here." She smiled mean. "We'll see about that." Sure enough, 2 days later, I got a letter in the mail. It was written on fancy paper and signed by the HOA lawyers. They wanted me to come to a meeting about making the neighborhood look better. I almost choked on my coffee. This was MY land, not part of their fancy neighborhood. But they were trying to drag me in like I was part of their little perfect community. I went, of course, and sat in a stuffy little room with Karen and 3 other board members, all looking like they'd never gotten their hands dirty. She stood up first. "This farmer keeps disturbing the peace. He has dangerous animals, makes too much noise in the morning, and even messed with my car to get revenge." I raised my hand. "Actually, I moved your car off my land after you parked it there without permission many times." One of the board members, an older man in a golf shirt, looked confused. "Wait, your land isn't in our HOA area." "Nope, never's been." He looked even more confused. "Then why are we here?" Karen jumped in. "Because his messy farm makes our neighborhood look bad. It makes our houses worth less money." I leaned forward. "So now it's about how things look." The room went quiet. "Let me tell you something," I said, looking at each of them. "This land has fed families for 40 years. I grew up here. My dad got old here. I fixed fences, planted seeds, and took care of every square foot with my own hands. So if you're worried about messy, maybe try looking at the cars that keep crushing my plants." No one said a word. Finally, the older man cleared his throat. Mr. Thompson, you're right. Your land isn't under our control. We'll close this matter. Karen looked like she was about to explode. She stood up so fast her chair tipped over. This isn't over, she hissed. And she was right, because the very next day I woke up to spray paint on my front gate. In bright red letters, it said, Ugly Farm. I stood there for a long time just staring at the gate. I won't lie, it hurt. I thought about my dad, how much he loved this place, how he used to stand at this very gate and watch the sun come up. To see it messed up like this felt like someone had been mean to our memories. But I didn't break down. I got to work. By lunchtime, I had cleaned off the paint. By evening, I had painted the gate even better than before. Bright green with yellow edges and hand-painted sunflowers. And I added a sign, This land feeds. Hearts, not just bellies. Neighbors started to notice. People who had barely talked to me before stopped to say nice things about the gate. One lady even brought me a basket of apples. I saw what they did, she whispered. I just wanted to say thank you for keeping the spirit of this town alive. It meant the world to me. Things were calm for about a week until I saw tire tracks again. Deep, fresh tracks heading straight through my vegetable garden. My stomach dropped. I ran over, and there it was, Karen's car again, parked, right on my land. But this time, she wasn't alone. Her teenage son and two of his friends were sitting on the hood, drinking sodas and laughing loudly. Music was blasting from the open windows. I walked up slowly. Excuse me, you need to move this car right now. One of the boys laughed. Relax, old man. It's just dirt. Something in me snapped, not with anger, but with purpose. I walked away without saying a word, heading toward the barn. They didn't know it yet, but I had something way bigger planned this time. And what I did next, even I wasn't sure I could pull it off, but I was about to try anyway. The moment I walked into the barn, my heart was beating fast. I wasn't mad anymore. I was focused. The kind of focus my dad used to have when a storm was coming, and he had to protect everything he built. This wasn't just about a car on my land anymore. This was about respect, about being taken seriously. I put on my work gloves, walked over to the side wall, and pulled back the dusty cover. There was the old hay wagon. It was a heavy-duty trailer my grandfather built back in the 1960s. It hadn't moved in years, but it still had big rubber tires and a strong metal frame. It was made to carry firewood, hay, and once even a piano during a town parade. But today it was going to teach Karen a lesson. I attached it to the back of my John Deere and slowly started moving toward the backfield. As I passed the chicken house, my rooster, Big Red, let out a loud crow like he knew something big was about to happen. By the time I got to the edge of the field, Karen's son and his friends were still sitting on the hood of her car, laughing and looking at their phones. I stopped about 30 feet away. Boys, I called out. Last warning. Move the car or I'll move it for you. They started laughing hard. You gonna move it with that old piece of junk? One of them shouted. I smiled and said nothing. Then I drove away, but not far. I went straight to the compost pile. Here's something about compost. It stinks. It's made of old vegetables, chicken poop, and every gross thing you can think of. And when it rains like it did the night before, it turns into thick, muddy, smelly goop. I loaded the trailer full. When I came back, the music was still playing loudly from Karen's car. I pulled up just close enough, put the tractor in park, and with one smooth move, I hit the release. The back gate on the trailer dropped open, and whoosh, a river of compost poured out. It didn't hit the car. That would have been too much. But it surrounded it, deep and sticky, like a moat made from garbage. The boys jumped off the hood screaming. What the heck? What'd I ask this? You said it was just dirt. I called back. They tried to run, slipping and sliding in the mess. One of them fell face first in the goop. I didn't laugh. Okay, maybe a little. Karen showed up 15 minutes later. The sound of her car brakes could probably be heard from 3 towns away. What is this? She screamed, looking at the brown mud surrounding her precious car. Compost, I said calmly. Natural fertilizer. good for the soil. You buried my car. No, I said. I built a barrier. That car is still on my land. It's just not going anywhere unless you clean up the mess. She stood there frozen, makeup running slightly from the heat, mouth shaking with anger. I'm calling the police. Go ahead. She did. Officer Johnson came back again. He looked at the scene, then looked at her, then looked at me. Let me guess, he said. You gave him a warning? Several. Let me guess again, he said, turning to Karen. You told your son it was okay to park here. She said nothing. Just stood there angry, arms crossed, nose wrinkled like she could smell the compost. Ma'am, Officer Johnson said, he hasn't broken any laws. You, on the other hand, have been warned many times. Trespassing, property damage, vandalism. You can't prove that paint was me. I didn't say you did the painting, he replied calmly, but you're giving me more reasons to start investigating. Karen went quiet. I suggest you get this cleaned up and stop parking on land that doesn't belong to you. She stomped off again, this time dragging her son by the arm. I thought maybe this would finally be over. But no. The next morning, I walked outside to the sound of hammering. I followed the noise to the edge of the field and stopped cold. Karen was building a fence, not on her land, on mine. Wooden posts, thick metal wire. She had 2 workers digging holes and putting up boards, making a boundary that she clearly made up. Good morning, I said, walking up to the workers. Who hired you? The lady in the high heels, one of them said, scratching his head. This is MY land. I said, pointing at the field behind me. That's my barn. That's my silo. And this fence is not going here. Karen walked over, looking smug like she just won a big game. You said you didn't want people parking on your land. So I'm putting up a fence for both our protection. You can't build on land you don't own. It's to protect your farm, she said innocently. If you remove it, I'll report you for harassment. I pulled out my phone and started recording. Say that again, Susan, about reporting me. Her eyes got narrow. What are you doing? Getting this on video. So when I sue you for trying to steal my land, I'll have something to show the judge. She blinked. You're bluffing. Nope. In fact, I already talked to the county office last week. Had them print out the original property survey. Would you like a copy? Karen's confidence deflated like a pop balloon. The workers slowly stopped hammering. Ma'am, if this isn't your land, we really shouldn't. Just leave it, she snapped. But they didn't. They packed up and left, shaking their heads. Karen stood alone next to the half-finished fence. And that's when I saw something I didn't expect. She looked tired, not angry, not smug, just worn out. Why are you doing this? I asked her. She didn't answer right away. Then she mumbled something under her breath. Because I'm losing everything. What? She looked away, blinking fast. My husband left me. I can't afford my house. And if property values drop, I'll be stuck here forever. I didn't know what to say. For a long moment, we stood in silence. Just 2 people with more in common than we thought. I finally said, you could have just asked. She looked at me confused. If you needed help, if you needed a friend, you didn't have to be the enemy. Her eyes got watery for a second. Then she shook her head, turned around, and walked away. I thought maybe that was the end. But 2 nights later, I was woken up by flashing lights, red and blue, and the smell of smoke. I ran to the window, and my barn was on fire. I flew down the stairs, heart racing. The barn was glowing orange in night, flames reaching up to the sky like angry fingers. The chickens were making noise. The goats were crying. Sparks shot into the air like fireworks on the 4th of July. No, no, no. I yelled as I grabbed the garden hose and ran toward the fire. But a garden hose wasn't going to do anything against a fire that big. Thankfully, I wasn't alone for long. Within minutes, the volunteer fire department arrived. Sirens blaring, tires digging into the dirt. Neighbors came too, people I barely talked to running from their homes in pajamas and slippers, grabbing buckets and shovels. helping move the animals away from flames. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. By morning, the fire was out, but the barn was gone. Just black beams, ash, and the broken pieces of what used to be the heart of my farm. I stood there staring, my hands shaking, eyes burning, not from smoke, but from the weight of everything. Memories, tools, family things, all gone. I felt a hand on my shoulder. It was old Mr. Williams from down the road. "You're not alone, son," he said quietly. "We'll help you rebuild." That broke me. I nodded, but tears slipped down my face before I could stop them. Later that morning, Officer Johnson showed up again. He was already talking to the fire chief, taking notes. Was it bad wiring? I asked. Johnson looked serious. "No, it wasn't electrical." "What then?" He hesitated, then looked at the burned edge of the field. "We found footprints and tire tracks. Someone drove onto your land last night." My stomach dropped. "Are you saying someone did this on purpose?" He nodded slowly. "Arson." I looked at the black ruins, the burned grass, my hands clenched into fists. "Do you think it was Karen?" He didn't answer right away. "I can't say anything yet, but we're looking into it. I'll need your camera footage, if you have any." I did. I had a couple of trail cameras hidden near the tool shed and chicken house to watch for wild animals. We spent the rest of the day looking at the footage. Around 2:47 in the morning, a car pulled up with no headlights. A person got out short, stocky, wearing a hoodie. They walked to the side of the barn and bent down near the hay. A moment later, there was a small flash. Then they ran away. I leaned forward, squinting. It wasn't clear, but the way the person moved looked familiar, but I couldn't say for sure. Johnson sighed. "We'll check this with other cameras in town. Maybe traffic cameras caught the license plate, but it might take time." Time. That's what I didn't have much of anymore. The fire had destroyed my tools, some animal feed, and part of my watering system. I could still farm, but it would be hard. And in the middle of all that, Karen showed up. She walked up the driveway slowly, not wearing high heels for once, just sneakers and a sweater. She stopped a few feet from the edge of the ashes and looked at what was left of the barn. "I heard," she said softly. "I'm sorry." I stared at her, not sure what to say. She looked really upset. "I know you think it was me." "I don't know what to think." I said, "But I know what's happened since you moved here." She nodded. "I deserve that." Then she surprised me again. She reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. "There's $3,000 in here," she said. "It's all I could get from my savings. Use it to start rebuilding." I didn't move, just stared at the envelope. "Why are you doing this?" I asked. She blinked fast. "Because I need to stop being the kind of person I've been. And maybe this won't fix everything, but it's a start." I took the envelope slowly. She turned to walk away. But before she reached into the driveway, I called out, "It was you who started the fire. Please just say it." She stopped, turned slightly, but didn't say a word, then walked away. The silence bothered me all night. The next day, something strange happened. One of the HOA board members, Rachel, a woman who always looked nervous during meetings, came by with a plate of cookies. "I heard about the fire," she said, "and I just want to say thank you." "For what?" "For not giving up and for standing your ground. A lot of us were. Tired of her, too." I raised an eyebrow. "Karen?" Rachel nodded. "She bullies everyone, but you fought back. You reminded us that being kind doesn't mean being weak." That hit hard. We sat on the porch eating cookies in silence, watching the goats eat grass like nothing had changed. And that's when I got the call. Officer Johnson again. "We got a partial license plate from a nearby traffic camera. We're checking it now." I held my breath. We might know whose car it was, but he didn't say who just yet. Instead, he added, "There's one more thing." We looked at more footage. Looks like someone came back after the fire started, about 15 minutes later. "Back?" I asked. "Yeah." They didn't start the fire, but they saw it and they walked away. Didn't call 911. Didn't help. Just watched. "Who was it?" He paused. We're still trying to confirm, but it might have been Karen's son. My chest got tight. If he didn't start it, then who did? And what exactly was he doing out there at almost 3 in the morning? Something wasn't adding up. But the real twist was about to knock. Everything sideways. 3 days later, just when I thought I'd seen the worst of it, I heard a knock at the door. It was Officer Johnson again, but this time he wasn't alone. Behind him stood a teenager with his hands in his hoodie pockets, face pale and eyes heavy with guilt. Karen's son. Can we come in? Johnson asked. I stepped aside slowly, eyes fixed on the boy. We sat at the kitchen table, the old wood creaking as Johnson laid a folder in front of me. I wanted to bring him here personally. Johnson said, because there's something you need to hear from him directly. The boy looked like he wanted to be anywhere else in the world. He didn't look at me, just stared at the table. I didn't start the fire, he said quietly. Then what were you doing on my property at 3 in the morning? I asked, my voice calm but firm. He swallowed hard. I snuck out. Me and my friend Tyler. We were going to mess around. Maybe throw some eggs at your barn. Nothing serious. Just stupid kid stuff. My heart sank. Kid stuff. He continued, voice shaky. But when we got there, the fire had already started. We saw it. Tyler panicked and ran away. I stayed for a minute. I didn't know what to do. I thought if I called someone, I'd get in trouble. I stared at him. You watched my barn burn and just left. He nodded, shame pouring off him. Johnson cleared his throat. We checked his phone records. He didn't make any calls until the next morning. But there's something else. He opened a folder and showed me a blurry photo from a traffic camera. A silver car, clear, as day, driving near my property minutes before the fire. That's not his car, Johnson said. And it's not Karen's either. Whose is it? I asked. He flipped to the next photo, a zoomed-in license plate number. Then another page with registration information. The name at the top hit me like a truck. Tyler Matthews, the friend. Karen's son looked up suddenly, eyes wide. Wait, Tyler started the fire. Johnson nodded. He confessed this morning. Said he thought it would be funny to scare the farmer. But the hay caught fire fast, and he didn't know what to do, so he drove away. I couldn't believe it. One kid's idea of a joke had destroyed a legacy, but something still felt off. Why now? I asked, why tell the truth now? Karen's son shifted in his seat. Because I told him if he didn't, I would. Johnson looked at me. This boy could have stayed quiet. He didn't. He spoke up, and that matters. I sat back in my chair. My feelings were all mixed up. Anger, relief, sadness, even a little pride. But before I could speak, the boy slid something across the table. It was a folded sheet of paper. I opened it slowly. It was a drawing. A new barn with goats, chickens, flowers, and a sun rising behind the roof. Underneath, in shaky teenage handwriting, it said, I'm sorry for what I didn't do. I want to help you rebuild. My throat got tight. I nodded once. All right, I said. Then let's rebuild. The next few weeks were crazy busy. Karen didn't show her face for a while, but her son came every morning at 7 o'clock sharp, work boots on, hammer in hand, ready to work. We put up new wood, fixed the roof, painted the beams. Rachel from the HOA brought sandwiches. Mr. Williams let us borrow tools. Even the local high school farming club showed up to help. It wasn't just rebuilding. It was bringing everyone together. One morning, as we put up the new barn door, I saw Karen standing at the edge of the field. She didn't say a word, just watched. Her eyes met mine. She gave a small nod. I nodded back. No words, but something passed between us. Maybe peace, maybe understanding, maybe a quiet agreement to start over. But just as things began to calm down, something happened that changed everything. I got a call from a lawyer, not mine, Karen's. At first, I thought it was about the fire or maybe the fence, but it wasn't. It was about her property, or more specifically, about MY land. You might want to come down to the county office. The lawyer said, there's been a problem with the records. I froze. What kind of problem? He cleared his throat. According to these documents, part of your field, the side where the car kept parking, might actually belong to the HOA development. I blinked. What? Looks like a boundary line was changed 20 years ago, but it was never updated on your personal deed. Legally, you might not own that strip. My mind went blank. The land she kept parking on. The land I defended might not be mine. He continued, you may still have a case. Long-term use rights, but it's going to be complicated. Complicated didn't even begin to describe it, because if that land wasn't mine, then Karen might have been right all along. But something about the timing didn't sit right with me. Why now? Why just that part? And who benefits from the change? That's when the real suspicion started, because what I didn't know then was that this fight was far from over.